There was this little boy, he said to his grandfather one day, he said, "Grandfather, will you please come to my baseball game on Thursday?" Grandfather said, "Well, what time is the baseball game?" Little boy said, 6 o'clock. His grandfather said, "Yes, grandson, I'll be there, but I'll be about 10 minutes late. Is that okay?" Little grandson said, "Sure, 10 minutes late is just fine, as long as you're there for most of the game." Well, Thursday finally rolled around, and 6 o'clock strikes, and the game gets started, and about 10 after 6, just like the grandfather said, he shows up to the baseball game. He sees his grandson sitting on the bench, so he walks down to his grandson. He said to his grandson, "How's it going so far?" Little grandson said, "Well, grandfather, we're at the top of the first inning. The other team is batting." The grandfather said to him, well, what's the score?" Grandson said, "The score is 14-0. 14-0, the grandfather said. "Are you discouraged?" Little boy said, "No, I'm not discouraged." The grandfather said, "The score is 14-0, you're not discouraged?" "No." "Why aren't you discouraged?" He looked at his grandfather and said, "Because we haven't had our chance to bat yet." The little boy realized what? If the other team can score 14 runs in one inning, we can score 14 runs in one inning. There's no reason to get discouraged. And that turns out to be the key point and message of today's gospel reading. Now, the gospel comes out of the 21st chapter of John, verses 1 to 19. And what we're going to discover in today's gospel reading is why Jesus handpicked the 12 original disciples that he handpicked. Because these 12 fellas, they had tenacity. They had the desire never to quit. And when things got tough, they just kept going. So what we want to look at right now is verse 3, 4, and 5, the 21st chapter of John. It says, they went out and got into the boat. That's the disciples. And that night they caught nothing. When it was already dawn, Jesus was standing on the shore. But the disciples did not realize it was Jesus. And Jesus said to them, "Children, have you caught anything to eat?" And they answered him, "No." You see, Jesus understood hard work. Jesus understood frustration. And Jesus realized when you put hard work and you put frustration together and nothing's working out, that is demoralizing. So Jesus doesn't ridicule their misfortune, but rather he offers them correction in any future attempt they have at fishing. So look at the correction he offers. Let's go to verse 6. Verse 6 is really interesting. So in verse 6, so he said to them, that's Jesus said to his disciples, "Cast the net over to the right side of the boat, and there you will find something." So they cast it. We're not able to pull it in because of the number of fish. Now, when you look at that, clearly Jesus does not tell his disciples to quit. He gives them some practical advice, a paradigm shift. Try something different. And Jesus says, take the net and throw it off to the right side of the boat. Clearly, they were on the left side of the boat. Now, what we know is this. The disciples could have said to Jesus, but they did not. They could have said to Jesus, "Look, we're tired, we're exhausted. Jesus, the boat isn't that wide. Left side of the boat, right side of the boat, the fish are under the boat. If they want to swim into the net, all they have to do is swim a little bit further, and they could get in." Or they could have said to Jesus, "Jesus, we're exhausted, we're tired. We've been here all night long. That net has been in the water a long time. It's saturated. It's heavy." No, we're not going to lift it up, walk over the boat, and drop it to the right side. We're not going to do that. We got a better idea. Let's just move the boat. And we'll put the boat where the net would be if we dropped it off to the right side. You see, they decided to take the advice of Jesus. They realized they can learn from their mistakes. Maybe if they just do something a little different, it just might work. You see, that's the goal of our lives. That's really the goal of the gospel. Success is the goal of my life, but it is failure and it is defeat that become our greatest teachers. Think about your life. Think about those times in your life when you really grew as a man or a woman. Those times when you matured, when it was difficult. You're going through some style of struggle, and you're saying to yourself, "God, why the struggle? Why the problems? Why one thing after another? Why isn't life any easier than it is right now?" And then you realize when you get through it, you say to yourself, "I grew." Characters, strong characters developed in the travel and the face of adversity. I'll think back in my life, and you could probably think back in your life. Those moments of adversity and struggle and error and trial and difficulty, As much as I didn't like them, when I look back, I say to myself, they were needed in my life. They helped to shape me. They helped to form me. Now, maybe right now, tonight, you're going through something difficult. And you might share that difficulty with your family. And they might say, well, that's not really that difficult. I've been through worse. You know, people like to compare operations, and this operation's always worse than the other. But when you tell your family what you're going through, that's your problem. And you might be 5 years old, you might be in the second or third grade to 12th grade, you might be first year in college, you might be 90. But if it is your problem, it is your problem. I got someone picking on me at school, and I'm afraid when Monday comes around because I have to go back to school. And someone might say to you, it'll be okay, things will work out. But not in their heart. In their heart, this is total struggle. What am I going to do? During Sunday night and in this Monday morning, the clock is ticking away and my alarm goes off and I tense up because I realize now I get up and I have to go to school to face this nemesis of mine. It's your problem. So what would Jesus Christ say as you're dealing with your problem? He offers some great advice, as he did the disciples. Cast your net over to the right side, and maybe you'll find something. And they did, and there were so many fish, they couldn't pull in the net, but they never quit. They found somehow the intestinal fortitude to continue on. And that's what we all need in life. When things are running nice and smooth in my life, I don't need intestinal fortitude. I just need more of those days. But when you're dealing with the struggle, and your struggle is your struggle, in your estimation, in your eyes, it is the most difficult thing that anyone can go through. You might share that with an adult, you might share that with someone else, and they might consider your problem nothing compared to theirs. But it doesn't matter, it's yours. And you have to face it alone. And bullying is one. And mom and dad can bolster you as much as they can, but you're the one that's got to re-enter that school building. When your heart is pounding, your legs are weak, what am I going to do? I got to do this on my own. Mom and dad would like to be here, and I know they would, but I'm here by myself. You know, Winston Churchill, he was the Prime Minister of England. Somewhere around 1936, the rest of the 30s, all through the 40s, and the first year or two of the 1950s. And he was a great prime minister, he was a great leader, he was a great speaker, he was a great orator. What's really amazing about Winston Churchill, when he was in high school and college, he nearly got kicked out of high school because he couldn't grasp one subject. And the subject that gave him the biggest problem was English. The subject that gave him the biggest problem in college was English. And somehow, through fighting through all that, he mastered the English language. He became a great speaker, great orator. 1952, it is known as one of the greatest commencement speeches of all time. Winston Churchill was invited by Oxford University to give the commencement speech. Everyone was excited because he had a mastery of the English language. He didn't chop it up. It was time for the commencement speech, and Winston Churchill walks up to the podium. And what everyone was amazed about is he had no notes, no flashcards, no index cards, no sheets of paper. He was going off the cuff. He is good. He's going to give a commencement speech without any notes. He walks up to the podium. He clears his throat. He looks at the students at Oxford University and he says this. 3 words, he said. He said, never give up. And then he sat down. And everyone stood up and applauded him. Now, maybe they were glad that he didn't talk for hours. Maybe that's why they applauded. I'm not sure. But they claim in history, when you read about his life and you read other historical books about England, what I find amazing is that it's always considered the greatest speech of all time. But actually, it conveyed a powerful, powerful message. For young people graduating from college, they're just getting started. I see someone graduating from college, I give them a little prayer in my heart because I'm well beyond that point. So what you know is this: if you get a little older, you know all the miles and all the hills and valleys they're going to have to face. So they're on top of the world, and I got a big smile, and I want to keep it there. But I look at them, and I say to myself, Heavenly Father, get them through whatever they're going to face. Because there are going to be times they're going to want to do what? Give up. Giving up is easy. Quitting is always the choice for any one of us. But quitting should never be an option that we ascribe to. We should say no. It's on the table, well, I'm not going to take it. Life is difficult at the age of 6 or 8th grade or 9th grade or junior or senior or college or as an adult. But I'm not going to give up. That little boy said to his grandfather, yeah, scores 14-0, no big deal. We haven't had our chance to bat yet. We might get 15 runs in the first inning. They'll be ahead by a run. But he had good perspective, a good attitude. The disciples said to Jesus, okay, we're tired, we're exhausted. You want to throw it off to the right side? We're not going to shift the boat over. We'll take the net and take it over there. And it worked, a paradigm shift. When you try to do something over and over again, you get nowhere, then it's time to try something different. And that's what they did. So as you gather that gospel together, 21st chapter, John, verses 1 to 19, clearly the commencement address of Winston Churchill, 1952, the Oxford University graduating students, that makes all the sense in the world because it's a powerful message. It's a message that was true then, it's true now, it'll be true probably 100 years from now. I don't know how it could change. But he simply looked at everyone and said, never give up.